Chapter 3. Before long, the police were on the scene at the Gazette. Luckily, the police station was also located in the town square, so it didn't take long for officers to get there. Soon enough, crowds had formed and began to gather outside the old Victorian converted office building in the town square. This was not looking good. The whole situation wasn't looking good at all. Dana stood to the side as the officers observed the area. They were speaking with the senior editor of the Berry Cove Gazette and the rest of the staff about what happened. "Dana? Oh, thank heavens! Are you all right?" Aunt Naya rushed in through the front doors of the building.
"Okay, ma'am. I'm afraid you're going to have to step aside. This is a homicide investigation."
One of the detectives spoke sternly to Aunt Naya. "But my niece is here!"
"Who is your niece, ma'am?"
the tall, handsome detective asked. He looked tired and weary, as if he had just finished the end of his night shift, which had now been extended since this unexpected case. He had dark blonde hair, blue-green eyes from what Dana could tell, and what looked like an old surgical scar on the side of his face. But oh, was he handsome. "Dana." "Hi, Aunt Naya. I'm fine, really." "You don't look so fine, sweetie. What happened?" "I just got here and—"
"We're going to be speaking with you, too."
The officer took out his notepad and sighed heavily.
"I'm Detective Evan Markson from Homicide."
He flashed his badge before proceeding.
"All right, let's begin. Can I get your name?"
"Dana Sweet."
"Address?"
"I live at—" Dana paused for a moment. She had to get used to not having a zip code any longer. She was no longer a city girl from Brooklyn, New York. She was now a small-town resident of Berry Cove. 123A Berry Lane, she continued.
"Did you say 123A Berry Lane?"
he asked as he wrote down the address. Uh-oh. Dana guessed her grandmother's address was a famous and popular place in this small town.
"Wait a minute. Are you Ma Ray's granddaughter?"
another detective asked, probably the guy's partner.
"I'm Detective Troy Anders. Your grandmother was a good citizen here."
He was also handsome, Dana noted. He was just as tall as the other detective, if not a bit taller. She guessed they were both over 6 feet tall, but Detective Troy had darker hair. Brunette, short-cropped with ocean blue eyes that sparkled and high chiseled cheekbones. Still, his expression did not seem as friendly as Detective Evans. Yes, I am, as a matter of fact."
"So it was your cupcake that Bradley Farmer Jackson was eating this morning?"
Detective Evan interjected.
"From the café. You're the new owner, right?"
Dana watched in horror as a team of forensic specialists observed the cupcake while taking snapshots for evidence before placing it into a plastic bag, probably for analysis. She swallowed hard. Dang those nerves. Dana hated to swallow hard when nervous. It made her look guilty or showed lack of confidence. She noticed the detective glancing at her neck when she swallowed. He probably thought she was guilty as sin, which of course she wasn't. Nowhere even close. "Well, I'm not sure."
"Hey, wait a minute,"
Detective Troy said to forensics as they were passing by with the cupcake in a bag. He observed it and saw the logo on the purple wrapper.
"That'll be all. Take it to the lab."
He then gave Dana a cynical look. He went back to his notepad. "We have our cupcakes delivered to many businesses in the area. That's nothing unusual," Dana finally added. "You aren't saying she had anything to do with this, are you?" Aunt Naya asked, her hands on her hips ready to fight for Dana.
"We're just asking questions right now, ma'am."
Dana tried to regain her composure. A cup of resilience. That's one of the ingredients in her grandmother's recipe for a good day. Resilience. Boy, did she need it now, and more than a cupful. She could also do with a cup of coffee. Strong and black, too.
"Where were you between the hours of 7 and 9 this morning?"
Detective Troy asked her pointedly. His voice was smooth and silky, like warm honey, yet strong and deep. She was almost mesmerized by him, but she had to shift her focus off his deliciously ocean blue eyes. The man probably thought she was a murderer, for goodness sake. Why was she even thinking he was remotely good-looking? Besides, she was so sworn off men, for now. Between the hours of 7 and 9? Dana scrambled her brain, trying to think. Her mind was an empty bowl of nerves right now.
"Yes, ma'am."
He sighed heavily, clearly impatient with her long pauses. But she was still in shock. Her mind was numb. Goodness gracious, a man was just killed in Berry Cove. Talk about major drama. She would have never expected this from a cozy small town like the one her grandmother grew up in. The very same small town where she visited often and spent memorable times with her grandparents during her early days. This was only supposed to happen on the big screen or in big cities. Certainly not in small-town Berry Cove, famously known as the land of fresh berries and produce and friendly warm welcomes. Well, I was actually at home at 7 o'clock. Detective Troy scribbled down notes on his pad. Then, she continued, I got ready and came into the café to check on things. The café opens at 7, Aunt Naya added. I know. Detective Troy's voice was void of emotion. Uh-oh. Did he think Dana had something to do with this murder? And that she was possibly trying to cover her tracks? But then, why in Sam's name would she return to the scene if she did? Right, because sometimes suspects do that. Duh. She was the writer of a mystery riddles blog. She should know that by now. Just then, a thought popped into Dana's mind. Should she mention that she bumped into Mike, the mail guy, earlier, and he seemed to be rushing away from the Gazette? Just what was he doing there anyway? She couldn't wait to tell Aunt Naya after she spoke with the cops, of course. But then again, Mike being in the area probably meant nothing. After all, it was a free country, right? He was probably just seeing an old friend or something like that. Just then, Detective Evan walked back over to them. He, too, had a notepad in his hand and had been interviewing other witnesses. Dana looked around and saw Mike, the mail guy, leaving. Did he just finish speaking with the cops? When did he get back to the Gazette? Dana's mind was spinning. Her thoughts raced back to her brief encounter with the town gossip, Gertie Sue, saying that folks don't like different in this small town. Were people trying to push her out by pinning this on her? She really had to give her mind a break from thinking. Dana was beginning to get a tension headache. Maybe she was being too dramatic here. There was no reason to be so harsh with her assessment of them. Wait a minute. Oh, yes, there was. There was a very good reason for her to be suspicious. It looked as if she might be framed for murder.